Gamera, Guardian of the Universe, has not had the best decade, but here on What If Kaiju, we treat this beloved defender with the respect he deserves. In this What If series, we place him within the MonsterVerse to see how he'd evolve and interact with other titans. For all the backstory, you can definitely check out the first part right here, but for those of you that have already watched it, let's dive into the modern day, specifically the year 1995. Humanity's negative impact upon the world, specifically pollution and the environmental destruction, signals the time of the shadow of evil to once again rise. Titanus Umbra Mali, aka the Gyaos. Himagami Island goes dark. Living shadows descend upon the populace, silencing every human voice upon the island as the ancient Gyaos spawn, long dormant within the island's interior, awaken from their slumber. And that basically is where the similarities between the film Gamera Guardian of the Universe and this timeline would kind of split off, because immediately Godzilla would sense this disturbance and come to raise the island. As explored in Godzilla Dominion, Godzilla's senses are extraordinarily refined. He would sense the Gyaos awaken and immediately bolt their way, raising the island within a day or two. Whatever juvenile Gyaos survived, they would be younglings at this point with no chance at winning against Godzilla. They would flee to Japan's mainland. Godzilla would give chase, and the world experiences G-Day roughly 20 years earlier, not in San Francisco, but more than likely another coastal city upon Japan's coast like Tokyo. Even if the Gyaos were to reach adult stage, it does not stand a chance against Godzilla, who at this point would have hundreds, if not thousands of years of experience killing these things, as we explored in part 1. Their comeback is short-lived, but more interestingly are the effects this has upon the world. First off, in this timeline, the Gyaos would actually be codenamed as Mutos, because they would be the first Titan revealed to the public at large. They would be the massive unidentified terrestrial organisms, but unlike the parasites, the Gyaos would have a far more disastrous public relation kind of nightmare scenario going on with their reveal. Monarch would be forced to expose itself and mitigate the panic, because while the parasites in 2014 were hostile, sure, the fear factor across the planet would be tenfold of what it was in Godzilla 2014 due to the Gyaos being flying ravenous wyverns which actively consume humanity. Now you're probably wondering what Gamera is doing during all this, and the answer is being actively watched by Monarch. With the organization fully aware that giant monsters exist, rumors or sightings of a massive, peculiar atoll in the Pacific would immediately attract their attention. His discovery could be decades in advance of what it was in Guardian of the Universe, and while he would most likely awaken due to the Gyaos too, Gamera, while the natural hunter of the Gyaos, does have a track record of, well, losing track of the Gyaos when he's pursuing them. So honestly, even though he's their natural hunter, I do think Godzilla will be the one that actively is able to pinpoint and knock out the Titans. Humanity would come to revere both the flying turtle and the atomic leviathan for stopping these human-killing creatures. They are humanity's protectors, bulwarks against a new Red Scare, at least until the year 1999 rolls around, and things kind of change. Godzilla and Gamera both actively hunting the wyverns, and with access to the high-speed network that is the Axis Mundi system, exterminate the new nests as fast as they appear. More importantly though, Godzilla, now far more active than he was in the film's 1999, also detects a small newborn Titan and forces it to heal, this being the male Muto parasite larva, and I should note from this point forward, I'm just going to call the Mutos from 2014 parasites, because technically the Gyaos would be called Mutos, and I don't want to confuse you guys, so just keep that in mind going forward. This doesn't mean the larva wouldn't still attack the Janjira nuclear power plant. Godzilla allowed the male in the film Godzilla 2014 to attack and feed off the plant for decades because it wasn't a threat. Only when the female awakened and the pair refused to submit did problems arise. Here, the male may be dissuaded from rebelling after the strong initial showing, and since monsters existing is common knowledge, there is no question to what happened at the facility. There is no need to send a team to investigate when the larva attacks, meaning that the Brodies and other workers of the facility never suffer the losses that they do. Back on the Gamera front, the Mute Pendants in this universe would establish a connection between Monarch and Gamera. I don't know who in the organization would connect with Gamera to basically become this universe's Asagi, but one or multiple souls would eventually meet that criteria. However, don't expect Gamera to be at the organization's beck and call. This would be more like a symbiotic relationship, where knowledge will transfer between monster and humanity. Gamera's past knowledge, though, could help locate Titans, give insight to whether they are protectors like Mothra or destroyers like Tiamat, or in the case of the female parasite, point out things not to do, like locking the spore within a nuclear storage facility in Nevada. I don't think that Monarch would kill the parasite, the female one, either, because we see in many other films that they just lock them up like Rodan, or they keep an eye on them. My thought process here is that most likely they would give it or find some home for it and allow it to grow, but it would never reach the same size and potential of harm that it did in 2014 because it doesn't have access to the abundance of nuclear material. Meaning when 2014 rolls around, there are two possibilities. Option 1, and what I feel is the more likely option, is the parasites, like the Queen Muto and King of the Monsters, submit and don't try to overrun the world with their spawn. Option 2, I feel, is far less likely, being that the parasites still try to spawn and a far less calamitous battle takes place thanks to the female being a lot smaller. A battle that would not occur in San Francisco, meaning the Russells never suffer their loss. So, of the two options, I'm going to be having the parasites essentially just peacefully relocating to another part of the Earth. In essence, they would just become like the Queen Muto, and understanding the environment that they're in and not trying to push their boundaries. Now, you're also probably wondering, does this mean Ghidorah is going to be remaining frozen throughout this? And the answer is, well, probably not. Whoever connects with Gamera would understand the threat Monster Zero represents when he is uncovered. This information would be in Monarch's database, so if Alan Jonah were to attack a Monarch site to find the biggest and baddest Titan to unleash upon mankind, then Ghidorah would be his prime target. Luckily for Jonah, we see a Monarch legacy of monsters that Monarch research sites aren't the most secure. So with a few rotten men and a metric ton of explosives, Ghidorah awakens, let's say in 2019 to keep things consistent. Godzilla intervenes, and thanks to him being active for over 2 decades, he puts up a way better show than he originally did in Antarctica, forcing Ghidorah to retreat. However, Ghidorah isn't safe yet, for when he takes to the air, he'd find a threat amidst the clouds: Gamera. So Ghidorah bats Gamera out of the sky like Rodan, right? Nope. In fact, it's Ghidorah who finds himself in a hellish spot. How? Well, let's look at the key attributes of this battle. With the caveat I mentioned in the first part that I'm scaling Gamera's weight in line with other MonsterVerse Titans, so the 120-ton turtle becomes something like 80,000 tons. The main factors for this fight is speed, agility, reaction time, and firepower. Now, MonsterVerse Ghidorah's top speed is something like Mach 1, which Gamera eclipses with his blistering top speed of Mach 3.5. As for agility, it may sound strange, but the flying turtle also takes the edge as he deals with hyper-efficient flyers like the Gyaos all the time. Flyers that reach speeds greater than Mach 4. Reaction time is about even though, as both Ghidorah and Gamera have evaded beams at close range, the Atomic Ray and Sonic Ray respectively. Finally, I'd give Ghidorah the edge in firepower, mostly because if his attack lands, Gamera will be taken out of the air. This is not to say Gamera can't do the same with enough fireballs, but Gamera needs multiple hits while Ghidorah just needs the one. All this is to say that while I think Ghidorah would dominate Gamera on the land, just like he did with Godzilla, in the air it is a completely different ballgame. Fire and lightning fill the skies. Lightning fails to strike Gamera again and again. Ghidorah is engulfed in churning plasma again and again. This doesn't kill or really much hurt Ghidorah all that much, but as the pair continue to plummet closer and closer to the ocean below, it turns out it doesn't need to be, for below the pair reside the shallow coast of Brazil, where the legendary Alpha awaits. Ghidorah is taken by surprise and submerged. Claws tear into golden flesh, and due to the distance, I don't think the Oxygen Destroyer will be close by to save Ghidorah this time. Within his own element and an environment Ghidorah is helpless within, Godzilla rips and tears until the dragon is no more, maybe with a little help from Gamera, ending Ghidorah's reign of terror just as it began. Alan Jonah slinks off to fight another day. Mothra never enters the fray, which means she doesn't die to Ghidorah, which really sums up what Gamera is able to do in this timeline. See, with the Earth having a second protector, it really just ensures that the loss that occurred in the first half of the MonsterVerse just doesn't really take place. Also, by forcing Godzilla to be more active, it also means more Titans can be brought to heel, like the parasites. Though as Ghidorah proved, some horrors just can't be prevented. They are inevitable. And that ends part 2 of the series. So what did you all think? Are you surprised Gamera did so well against Ghidorah? Because again, it's really all about terrain. You just have to think of it like Godzilla did so well in the ocean. Really, the sky is Gamera's element, again, which is strange for a giant flying turtle. Anyway, I'm GrayShot151, and I'll catch you all next time. Until then, later.